Prices rise, and with them, your freedom quietly shrinks. Everything increases day by day without drawing attention. You start to feel that your salary no longer goes as far as it used to. This cannot be an illusion. You are witnessing the quietest transfer of wealth in human history. A cycle that repeats every generation. Because inflation doesn't just make life more expensive, it also decides who the future belongs to. For many people, inflation is chaos itself. Uncontrollable prices, disappearing savings, a sense of order slipping through our fingers. But for those who hold power, inflation is order. It is how today's economy keeps itself alive. It allows companies to erase their debts. And it lets the wealthy multiply their wealth while everyone else stands still, or falls behind. So the real question isn't, why does inflation happen? It's, why is it allowed to keep happening? In the early 20th century, most powerful economies were tied to gold. Every paper bill printed was balanced by metal sitting in a vault. This made money scarce and stable. But it also made it impossible for governments to cover their mistakes by printing money. If you ran a budget deficit, you either raised taxes or accepted defeat. Inflation was usually the result of war or collapse. The idea that a government would deliberately create inflation was unthinkable. The Great Depression of the 1930s shattered the idea of monetary discipline. Prices fell. Wages collapsed. Banks failed. The economy froze under deflation. When money gains value over time, no one wants to spend it. Debt becomes heavier with every passing day. This is a cycle of economic death. And it fundamentally changed how policymakers viewed money. After World War II, fear of inflation turned into a tool. Governments emerged from the war buried under enormous debt, in some cases many times their GDP. They didn't choose to pay it back. They let inflation do the work. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, global debt quietly shrank. Not because countries grew richer, but because the value of debt eroded. A $5 trillion war bond simply wasn't the same thing 10 to 15 years later. The system learned a lesson from history. Moderate inflation could solve unsolvable problems without anyone noticing. In 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window. The dollar's convertibility to gold ended. What was said to be temporary became permanent. And in that moment, money stopped being a measure of value and became a policy tool. For the first time in history, the world's dominant currency was backed not by metal, but by trust. It could no longer be exchanged for gold, only for larger and larger amounts of dollars. Inflation was no longer a symptom. It was a design feature. The rules of the game had changed. As long as people believed, money could be produced endlessly. Governments could borrow without limit. Banks could always expand credit. And investors learned one thing: when you control inflation, the winners are not those who save money, but those who borrow it. As prices rise every year, the real value of your debt falls. A $100 million mortgage that feels crushing today becomes easier to pay in 10 years. Meanwhile, your house, your car, your stocks, your land rise in nominal value. Inflation doesn't just reduce debt. It multiplies wealth. This is the paradox at the heart of the system. The force that makes the poor poorer allows the rich to stay rich. Inflation is the survival mechanism of a debt-based economy. Without it, every euro borrowed would have to be repaid at the same value. In a system built on credit expansion, that is impossible. That's why governments, central banks, and corporations made a silent agreement: let money lose a little value every year, but never let the system collapse. Inflation doesn't redistribute money like shuffled poker cards. It redistributes upward. Those who hold power get the money first. And the first money is always more valuable. By the time it reaches you, it has been diluted. This is called the Cantillon Effect. After 1971, the logic of money permanently reversed. Excessive spending was rewarded. Discipline was abandoned. Saving gave way to credit. Inflation became the silent glue holding the system together. States love inflation too. Government debt shrinks in real terms over time. That's why they fight deflation. Deflation makes debt heavier, bursts bubbles, forces bankruptcy. Inflation, on the other hand, seals cracks, fills gaps, and dulls the pain. In 2008, trillions were printed, not for the public, but for the markets. Asset prices soared. Wages did not. This wasn't corruption. It was politics itself. In 2020, this time the money went directly into homes. Demand exploded, supply collapsed. Inflation peaked. Stock markets broke record after record. Housing became unreachable. Those using leverage won. Central banks say they plan to defeat inflation. But they never want to eliminate it completely. They only want to control it. Because zero inflation means an economy that stops moving. Inflation doesn't just change numbers, it changes behavior. It teaches people to spend today and punishes patience. It rewards risk. It creates a population that is indebted, anxious, yet hopeful about the future. We call this growth. But at its heart lies a system centuries old. Inflation is not a random concept. It is power measuring time. It rewards those who live in the future. It punishes those who live in the present. It erases those who live in the past and crosses them out. The rich love inflation. For them, it isn't theft, it's a strategic outcome. In the end, the truth we face is this. Money does not have a fixed value. The real question is, are you the one losing, or the one who decides what has value? Inflation is not a mistake. It is like the blood flowing through our veins. And the world we live in cannot exist without it. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.